John Marshall had never been a man of many words, but the weight of his silence spoke volumes, a veteran of wars that few could truly understand. He carried the invisible scars of battle with the same stoicism that had earned him respect in his small hometown. John's family had always known him as a quiet, reserved figure, someone whose presence was more felt than heard. Yet, beneath that calm exterior lay a life shaped by fear, loss, and secrets that he carried to the grave. It was in the autumn of 1972 that John's life began to change in ways he could neither predict nor control. He had returned home from service abroad, a man in his early 40s, with a body that bore the marks of countless battles. He was welcomed back by his wife, Margaret, who had endured years of uncertainty, raising their young son, Daniel, in his absence. The homecoming was bittersweet. John was not the man who had left, and the nightmares of war clung to him with an unrelenting grip. Daniel, a bright and curious boy of 8, noticed the subtle changes in his father. John was still a loving parent, but there were moments when his gaze would drift to some distant horizon as if he could still hear the chaos of a battlefield. Daniel would watch him sometimes, trying to catch a glimpse of the man who had left for war and never truly returned. Despite the distance John kept between them emotionally, he loved his son fiercely, though his way of expressing that love was often through caution and warning. One evening, as Daniel sat cross-legged on the wooden floor of their small living room, stern voice broke the comfortable silence. "Daniel," he said, his tone firm yet edged with urgency. Never touch the floor. Understand?" Daniel blinked in surprise. "What do you mean, Dad, the floor?" John's face darkened, and he looked away. "It's important. Son, promise me. Promise you'll never touch it." Daniel nodded, too young to fully understand the gravity of his father's warning. Over the years, John repeated the admonition countless times, each repetition more desperate than the last. The boy grew up with a strange sense of fear, one that was intangible yet ever-present. He avoided the floors in the house as though some invisible danger lay beneath the wood, a danger only his father understood as Daniel grew into adulthood. He carried this peculiar warning with him, though the mystery behind it never fully revealed itself. He sometimes laughed it off with friends, brushing aside his father's eccentricity as a quirk born of trauma. But deep down, a part of him felt an unshakable respect for his father's insistence. That respect lingered even after John passed. Away quietly in his sleep when Daniel was in his late 20s, leaving behind a house full of memories and unanswered questions. Years passed. Daniel had children of his own, and life went on in the familiar rhythm of small victories and quiet disappointments. Among his children, it was his youngest, Ethan, who showed the most curiosity. Ethan was a boy who asked questions relentlessly, whose imagination often led him into trouble, and whose courage seemed boundless compared to his father's cautious nature. The story of John's warning had been passed down like a relic, a family secret wrapped in a shroud of mystery. Daniel, now a man in his 50s, continued to caution his children with the same words his father had once spoken: "Never touch the floor." It had become a ritual, a repeated mantra that no one dared challenge, except Ethan. One late afternoon, when the sunlight streamed through the tall windows of the old family home, Ethan finally asked the question that had been burning inside him for years. "Dad, why can't we touch the floor?" Grandpa John never explained it. "What's really under there?" Daniel froze, the weight of decades pressing down on him. He had never been able to answer that question, not because he didn't want to, but because the truth was too heavy, too dangerous to reveal. And yet, he knew the day would come when Ethan would demand an answer. I don't know, Ethan. Your grandpa was very serious about it. That's all I can tell you." Ethan's curiosity only intensified. He spent countless hours examining the floors, listening to the creaks, imagining hidden compartments, and wondering what secrets could be buried beneath the wooden planks. And then, one stormy evening, when the power had gone out and the house was dimly lit by flickering candlelight, Ethan made a decision. He would find the truth himself. Using a small crowbar he had found in the garage, Ethan began prying at a loose plank in the living room. Each creak of the wood echoed like a whisper from the past. His heart raced as he lifted the plank, revealing a small, dust-covered compartment beneath. Inside lay a collection of letters, photographs, and a faded, leather-bound journal that seemed to radiate history. Ethan's hands trembled as he picked up the journal and began to read. The journal belonged to John, and as Ethan read the carefully penned words, he began to understand the truth that had been buried not just beneath the floorboards, but beneath decades of silence and fear. John's journal recounted his time during the war, the battles he had witnessed, and the choices he had been forced to make. But the most shocking revelations were not about the battlefield. They were about what had followed him home. John had been part of a covert mission, one that had gone horribly wrong, leaving him with knowledge of dangerous secrets and evidence of crimes that powerful men would kill to protect. He had hidden the proof in that very house, underneath the floorboards, fearing that if anyone discovered it, his family could be in danger. The warnings he had given his son were not superstitious quirks, but desperate measures to protect them from forces they could never understand. Ethan read on. Entry revealing the lengths his grandfather had gone to conceal the evidence. There were details of coded messages, secret meetings, and a network of individuals determined to silence John. The journal ended with a note written in John's unmistakable hand. Daniel, if you are reading this, know that I kept you and your family safe all these years. Never touched the floor. For what lies beneath is not just wood and nails, it is the burden I carry for you. One day the truth may surface. Be ready, and protect those you love. Ethan closed the journal, his mind racing. He understood now why his father had been so insistent, why the family had avoided the floors for generations. The warning had been more than a precaution, it had been a lifeline. Determined to honor his grandfather's sacrifice, Ethan carefully documented everything he had found, contacted trusted authorities and experts who could ensure the evidence was used for justice, rather than falling into the wrong hands. Over the following months, the investigation reopened cold cases, shedding light on crimes that had been buried for decades. Through it all, Ethan's relationship with his father, Daniel, deepened. The father and son who had once been bound by a strange and unexplained rule now shared a profound understanding of sacrifice, courage, and the unseen battles that shape a family. Daniel finally allowed himself to speak openly about his father, sharing memories and insights that had been locked away in silence for too long. The house, once a place of mystery and fear, became a symbol of resilience and legacy. The floors, which had seemed ominous and forbidden, now represented the strength of a man who had fought not just on the battlefield, but against invisible threats, risking everything to protect those he loved. John's story, once hidden beneath the floorboards, became a source of inspiration for generations to come. Ethan, armed with the knowledge of the past, vowed to live a life of integrity, courage, and vigilance, understanding that some legacies are hidden in the most unexpected places, sometimes literally under your feet. In the end, had haunted 3 generations of the Marshall family, revealed not a threat, but a testament to love, bravery, and the sacrifices we make to safeguard the ones we cherish. The floors were no longer just a part of the house. They were a memorial to a man who had lived, fought, and died with courage that would echo through time, teaching his family lessons that only the passage of decades could fully reveal. And as Ethan stood in the living room, feeling the solid wood beneath his feet, he finally understood the full truth. His grandfather had asked him never to touch the floor, not out of fear or superstition, but out of love, and in obeying that warning, he had unknowingly safeguarded a legacy that would one day change the course of their family's history forever.